15 degrees, you can see your breath. Out here in the lake of fact, breaking tables like it's poetry. Where else would you rather be? Pinto, Ron, Elvis, and the Lay Poncho. The members that you need to know. 'Cause once you out here, now your family. Where else would you rather be? Where else would you rather be?
Welcome into the Nickel City Crew. I am your host, Rob Crippen. Please like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Nickel City Crew. This episode, along with all of our episodes, are presented by Crippen Legacy Entertainment here on Spreaker and StreamYard. We're so glad that you're joining us for some of your Buffalo Bills and NFL content again today. And as always, these are my Bills thoughts said out loud.
It's a vibe so ridiculous. Since 12 plus 83 was 6. The shout rocking like a symphony. Where else would you rather be?
All right, let's get straight to it. I'm really excited about tonight's episode. It's been a goal of mine and my co-host since last year to just kind of do a little bit more of a concerted effort to spread the word, build the brand, make sure that we're doing a little bit of cross-pollination, which is always good. Again, we simulcast on the Buffalo Fanbase Podcast Network. Again, that's official Bills Mafia Podcast Network. And I really have liked our guests tonight because of the fact that I just like their style. I like their podcast. I like their setup. I like everything about it. They got former players on there often, and it's a really cool setup with what these three guys are doing. We're really happy to be joined tonight by one of the members of the K-Gun Report. But joining me, as always, riding shotgun, my co-host, Adam Dumptruck Rupsick. Check him out on Instagram at Adam Rupsick, RUPCZYK. DT, holla at the crew. What's good, man? You looking slim over there.
What's up, baby? Yeah, how we doing, baby? We're back. Click, clack, we're back. Nickel City Crew. Keep counting down. That countdown to kickoff has begun, and we're all immersed. We're all in it. We're in the off season, but my day's still filled with Buffalo Bills, and
yes.
So good to get back on the pod. Excited for our guests this evening to chop it up, and it's interesting. A lot of good stuff going on, and can't wait to get down to it. Crew, thanks for coming back, and it's a good season. We're pumped.
Oh yeah. We're ready to do it. Our guest tonight, really just appreciative that he gave us his time tonight. Scott Reed of the K-Gun Report on Buff Fandemonium. Listen, man, holla at the crew, Scott. You can check him out on Instagram and Twitter at Scott247BF. Holla at the crew. Welcome to the crew. What's good, man? Holla at the crew.
Holla, guys. I'm so excited to be here. When you reached out last week and said you want to join the show, I didn't hesitate at all. We just needed to figure out time and all that, and it's working out for us. At 24/7 Buff Fandemonium, which is the group I run, we run the K-Gun Report and Sunday sessions, and we love to surround ourselves with like people. And you guys are a group of people. The Buff fan base is a group of people that give the fans a voice, let the people be heard in the comments and all that stuff. And that's what we appreciate about this whole group. And you're right. We need to cross-pollinate, get to know each other a little more, and spread our optimistic love for the Buffalo Bills. Glad to be here, Rob. Thank you. And Dump Truck, man, this is awesome. We're going to have some fun.
Let's do it, man. I'm really happy that you joined us tonight. It's funny because, as you were talking about, DT, it is the off season, but, we've got March Madness on right now. We've got a lot of different things going. Sweet 16 starts tonight and kicks off. And it's funny because I was thinking about, some of the things that go into sports, and, sports are just the great equalizer. They're the ultimate competition. They bring people together. Nothing, personifies that like the Buffalo Bills and the Bills Mafia. And we can all agree to that. I was looking at it and I was wondering what you guys thought about it, because as I was thinking about March Madness, I was like, what does it take to be a champion? What does it take? And that's why I named the episode the way that I did, because, obviously we are all looking for that elusive championship, whether it be for the Sabres or the Bills. And obviously the Bills with us would just mean something so special. And I looked at it and I was like, well, you got to have some talent, for sure, because there's no, crappy teams that just luck up on something like that. And then you've got to have some type of culture, and sometimes people will scoff its culture and what does it mean, and locker room chemistry and different things like that. And then you do need a dash of luck in there as well. You look at March Madness and these last second buzzer beaters, DT, Scott, and it's like, man, you do need a little bit of luck, and then that's how you get to that championship. And I was thinking about a conversation that came up last week on Chopin the Bulldog, and I was wondering what you guys think about championship DNA and what you need, because I'm wondering if this Bills team is constructed to go get one. And it's something that's just on my mind, and it's been on my mind. So I was hoping you could speak to that for me, Scott, and kind of let the crew know what you think and what your thoughts are on it, because I'm haunted by Super Bowl 25. Everybody knows here at the crew, I was 5, 6, 7, and 8 for the Super Bowl run. So I was a baby, but I cried like a baby when Scott Norwood missed that kick. And I just want to get back there. I want to get that glory. And watching these guys, these young men and women getting ready in March Madness, getting ready to cut down the nets. It's like, man, when is it going to be our turn, man?
Man, I can't imagine what's going to happen when it is. I love how you threw in luck. There's a quote that I love. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity.
That's right.
And you do need that. I mean, we always hear all the time, playoff time, when teams become hot, when's the perfect time? And as far as the recipe goes, 30 teams out of the 32 teams in the NFL has the recipe. These guys are full of NFL talent. There's no doubt about it. There's teams that have top 5 defenses that make the Super Bowl and win with a Trent Dilfer quarterback.
Right.
So there's a lot of luck that has to do with it. It's so hard to get to the playoffs. We know that with the drought guys. And then when it's hard to win. But we do have everything it takes. We have the right coach. I believe we do have the right coach. You don't want to start getting new coaches in the system, because then it's a building from the ground up again. We have a quarterback, right? Do you guys think we have our quarterback?
Oh, I think so. I think so. Yeah. The Madden cover says so.
And no matter what we do with our defense, even with the injuries we had last year, we still find a way to be in games and be the top 5 defense in the league. So we have everything it takes. It's just the luck part, the injuries.
Okay.
The injuries, the bad calls. Sometimes us as Bills fans think that the refs are against us.
Right.
They are.
I was going to say they're not. That's funny. You said they are.
But that's what it is. All 32 teams have a chance. All 30 out of 32 teams, because there are a handful we can say there's no way.
Right.
But that luck part is a big part of it. And you need to get hot when it happens, and you need to stay healthy.
DT, do I have the right equation? I said talent plus your culture. I mean, it's important that the guys like each other. Now they're from different backgrounds and stuff like that, so everybody's different. So you're not looking for a whole bunch of choir boys and everybody to be from the same town. We know that that's not realistic with a 53-man roster, but it's important. I'll give that weight to that. And then you do need a sprinkle dash of luck. I mean, do I have the right equation, DT? I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, I think definitely the first two. The luck situation is, I don't think you're winning a championship on luck. Maybe there might be a play in the Super Bowl that is lucky that kind of bolts you to the win,
right,
but you're not getting lucky to get to that championship. I think you got to make your own luck in that regard. And we talked about the March Madness, and that kind of puts it in perspective of there's obviously upsets every year, in this, but it also seems like the top team not always winning it, but isn't the one, getting caught up in these early round upsets. And you go back to last year at 6-6, and all the BS that surrounded this team and everything, and then the dark cloud over the city, and then it was kind of started clicking and winning these games, and unorthodoxly, but because we were the better team, and we were built in those 3 phases as you just talked about, making your own luck to like, all right, enough messing around. We got to start rattling off some wins in a row. And those good recipes, those championship teams have that type of luck, if you will, making your own and push forward. So I think we saw that, in the highest degree. Obviously, in the playoffs was a tough exit, but at that 6-6 situation to building up to kind of rattling off those wins to end out the year of, all right, this is our luck. Like we're better than you. We're going to go beat you. And so that's how I see in that portion of it.
All right. Interesting. I was thinking about it, and it's funny because it kind of dovetails. I know we skipped last week, Nickel City Crew, for the first round of the tournament, and, everybody was kind of busy with that, and we understood it. So we took a week off last week, and it's funny because, everybody knows the crew. I'm a, avid WGR listener, and Show with the Bulldog, we're talking, and they piqued my interest, and I was just like, man, I had to call in, and I called in because they were talking about your expectations for the season coming up and what you're looking forward to and what you're kind of dreading, so to speak, and things like that. So I called up and I waited on hold. And my main point was that, like, DT knows this very well. I'm looking for just a Super Bowl berth. I want to get there. And the reason being is that I have had a real tough time, Scott. Last season was the first season that I had to make a concerted effort. And DT helped me with that. And we had Robin Mundy on, part of the fan base, and helping me out with that, because what was happening was I was looking at the end result and the playoffs, and I was skipping over the entire season. Just get me to the playoffs. Just get me to the playoffs. I don't give a damn. And what happened was I was worried about the fact that I wasn't going to enjoy the season. So last year I had to make a concerted effort to walk with my team, walk with the Bills, all the way from week 1 all the way to week 18, including the bye week, because of the fact that I was singularly focused on just the end result. Like, are we going to get back to the AFC title game? And are we going to represent the conference in the Super Bowl? And then I'll let the chips fall from it after that. And, it was just funny because I am very, very singular focused at this point in time. You already spoke about it, Scott. We've got the quarterback. We know we've got DT always calls him the unicorn. He's must-see TV. We know we've got a generational talent. I mean, it seems like we're hitting our head on that ceiling, and I'm just like, what is going on? And I'm really, really focused on trying to walk with the team in the journey, because I understand I'm a season ticket holder. I mean, I'm a fanatic. I know what it's like to go out to the tailgates and have a great time, but like, man, I was crushed last year. DT will tell you I was crushed after we finally got Mahomes in town and we didn't get it done. So, I mean, am I being too narrow-minded? Am I just like, what is going on? Because I feel like there's no more moves on the chessboard. There's no more moves. Like, this is it.
Well, I mean, there's two ends of the equation that are, I hate bringing them both up because it puts you right back in the middle. I mean, on the one end of, enjoy the ride. We were in the drought. Now we have our franchise quarterback in Josh Allen and this team of consistent wins, and we're in the hunt, and it's always a competitive situation, and enjoy that part of it. But then on the other side, we talked about all these dudes we just had to release, and, with the old and Price, and that's the first half of Josh Allen's career. We talked about the 2 phases, right? The 7 years, we want him probably at least 14 with the way he plays. 7 years in, that's halfway there, and we're kind of, in that position. And now, so it's tough to, enjoy the ride. But then on the other side, like, all right, well, how long do we got to enjoy the ride? Like, before it's, before 1-7's gone and we don't have a shot at this anymore. And, you look back at this team's kind of in this situation with, let's say the Patriots are the new age Chiefs, right? And then those teams like the Steelers and the Broncos when Peyton Manning got there, and the Colts when Peyton Manning was on there, on that first time, of those teams of like the Bills, comparatively, they were right there and they couldn't get over. Eventually they all did, which kind of gives me some hope that hopefully that the Bills can do the same thing. But you look both directions. Of course, we want to enjoy it and hang out, and we like being in the conversation. But it also puts the expectation of, well, then what are we happy with? Because nobody's happy walking out of that divisional round when we're walking back to the car, Rob, and nobody's happy with that, right? So it's a back and forth of how much time do we have left, but we still have to enjoy it. But teams in the past with this talent have done it. So you hope it happens, and so it just brings me right back to the middle again, and we're not getting anywhere.
Scott, to speak to it, man. I feel like that. I'm not a horror movie fan. I see those commercials for that new Omen movie coming out, and I'm like, man, I am worried that 13 seconds could have been the best shot, and that scares the hell out of me, man. It scares me, man. It scares me. I'm being honest, man.
It does, because a lot of people think that was the year that we should have won it, because we would have played a home game in the AFC Championship game. It would have been versus the Rams in the Super Bowl, and those are games that we should have won. I personally believe, I may be a biased Bills fan, I think the last 4 years we could have gone to the Super Bowl and won it all. But I love that you're finally starting to slow down, Rob, and taking one game at a time. We stress that on our show because, you know what? Unfortunately, taking one game at a time and following in the playoffs, it's going to feel a little more heartbroken at the end of the season because you feel like you invested more time. But it makes these shows that we do a lot more fun, too, because you've taken the time to invest yourself in each game, and you've studied it and learned it and knows what's happening, and you take it all in. So it makes these shows a lot more fun. But, Dump Truck, you're right. I mean, we'd hate to say we're on the second half of Josh Allen. We should have won it, at least been there 3 times in the first 7 years he's been here. What's going to happen next? But I think Beane's got the answer, and I think he's showing us exactly how to do that. We're going to get younger. We're going to get younger, unfortunately, but
it's needed. It's needed. Yeah, it's needed. I mean, we talked about that after the start season, season 4, talking about how some of those moves were necessary for sure to get younger, and some of those positions, you just have to kind of rip the Band-Aid off and just go get it. You know what I mean? So I'm in favor of that. I just want to make sure that I'm not tripping. And, joining us now, just as the fan base continues to build, speak to it. Because listen, it's important that we keep everything in focus, but Justice General always has something to add to it, and I want to know, am I tripping? Because I just want to know if I'm tripping. I mean, talk to us. You can check him out at JA17MVP. Holla at the crew.
What's up, Justice?
Holla at the crew. Come on, man. Talk to me.
I'm sorry. I really just came in to support my guys. You know what I mean? I didn't expect you to throw me on here. But I mean, I've been listening, and I agree where I'm kind of the same way in the sense of as where before I'm talking about 16-0, 17-0, Super Bowl or blah blah blah. I've kind of tempered those expectations just a little bit, just because it's a process in the NFL. It's a lot harder to win a Super Bowl than people want to admit. And
it is.
We have a team where it's kind of a weird spot to be in. Where we're kind of like, who has put forth a better return on investment with less reward than Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills? You know what I mean? Return on investment in terms of awards, because Josh Allen is a should-be 3-time MVP. The Buffalo Bills are a should-be 3-time Super Bowl champion. That's due to their own fault, though. You know what I mean? But in terms of awards, championships, etc., and not only that, but just the perception that the Buffalo Bills have. Outside of Vegas, the Bills aren't very well liked by like most national pundits or whatever the case may be. Vegas really likes the Bills. Vegas is like, those guys are good. But outside of that, everybody kind of wants to downplay them, even though they're the second most
the winningest team,
the second most winning team, only second to a literal dynasty that is technically the best dynasty in the 5-year period we've ever seen. So if you're the second best team compared to that team, then I mean, you're not doing too bad. But let everybody else tell it the window's closed and the Bills, weren't able to win anything, and just all these negative things. People really look at it from a terrible perspective. But nonetheless, I do think that the Bills will go undefeated and win the Super Bowl this year.
See what I have to deal with, Scott?
The point is, I mean, you get invited to the Hutches or the Chop House or the John Carlos. You get invited to the dinner, but then you get there and they tell you can only order chicken fingers, right? And so that's what how much more how cool can we be with getting invited to dinner before we order that fucking steak? So that's what we gotta get to.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because the seasons stack on top of each other, and I think that's one of the problems that I've had with staying focused on, and going through the process and the journey, Scott, is the fact that they stack on top. So every time there's a missed opportunity, then I'm thinking about, man, was that it? And man, was that it? And then the next year, man, was that it? And and that's what the 4 Super Bowls will do to you. And I mean, I'm the product of it. So being the '90s baby, like that was my reality growing up. Was what do the Bills stand for? And every barbershop I went in, boy, I love losing Super Bowls, and then I got to deal with hearing shit from everybody in the barbershop. So that's how I grew up. So I think it's almost innate to carry some of those wounds and those scars and different things like that. So I'm not trying to be pessimistic. I'm not trying to have that type of thought process, but I am trying to make sure that I don't set myself up for to be disappointed, because boy, at the end of last season, I was drained. I mean, we literally ended season 3 and the name of the episode was Exhausted, and that's exactly how I felt. So I mean, like I was spent, to be honest. I was spent. And I hope that everybody kind of understands where I'm coming from, because I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but I definitely I'm looking for it. I crave that opportunity, like you talked about, Scott. The city, I mean, the city might burn for days if we get, I'm talking about feeding the pit. I couldn't imagine the Bills win the Super Bowl. I mean, it brings chills to my face every time.
And it's going to feel like that when it does happen. The Bills fans deserve it the most. And you hate to say that. We did go through all that. We're the only ones that made the 4 Super Bowls in a row. I think we're the only one that had an 18-year drought without making the playoffs. So we've gone through so much dramatic stuff that when it finally does happen, there may be even Miami fans. It's like, okay, they can have it. You know what I mean? That's how bad it is.
Yes.
So yeah, it'll be something special.
It would be something special for sure. Now, switching gears as we transition, the draft is right around the corner next month, and everybody is excited about looking at the prospects and different things like that. I wanted to get you guys in a mode and put your Brandon Beane hats on right now and kind of, see what you can do and let me know what you're thinking. What's the perfect scenario, DT, for next month's draft? The Bills are at 28. I know that there's a lot of talk about wide receiver. I'm on the wide receiver train for sure, 100% choo-choo. But I do understand that there's a possibility that it could be a different position. And I'm starting to understand that, there might be an opportunity where there's just something that Brandon Beane can't pass up in respects to his best player available, what he sees on his board. We don't get a chance to see the board. So because of that, we always have to speculate leading up to the draft. And then obviously in the press conference afterwards, DT Scott, they'll tell you that, this guy was right on our board. And we wanted him the entire time. And that's the speak that you have to do. And obviously it's part of the game. DT, put your Brandon Beane hat on. What is your perfect scenario? Is there a position that you're hoping to get most? Is it wide receiver? Is there something that you're looking at like, man, I want this. I want this bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, the wide receiver train is real. It has to be. It's more than just filling Gabe Davis. It's, as we talked about it in the last episode. It's a crucial move for a succession plan for Stephon Diggs. It's not we just need a wide receiver. We need a number one. We need the next 6-7 year number one wide receiver. Yeah. Like, you can't just get a guy that's going to produce. Like, you need the next superstar. To pick. So with that mentality, it's like you get your eyes on the top half of it, right? The guys we probably can't touch, the Adunze's, the Harrisons, Malik Neighbors, those type of guys. But then you look at the Sammy Watkins situations. You trade up huge, you go get Sammy Watkins, and then you miss out on Mike Evans or Odell Beckham or whoever else was in that draft. And that's like then you put it back to my Beane perspective. Okay, we need that number one. We need that next. You can't just get a receiver. You need the next number one to succeed Stephon Diggs.
Right.
But it's tough for me to go up more than 3 or 4 spots.
Yeah.
For anything other than a quarterback, and we're not doing that. We're not doing that. No, obviously. So
right.
So if I've talked myself back into sitting still at 28 and relying on this thick draft class, and if some things fall, then get aggressive. You got the picks to get aggressive and move up. But I think we'd be patient. We wait at 28 and get that still pool there. All these guys aren't going to be gone by 28. So there's going to be one of them left, and just hope he's the next JJ, Jamar Chase, or whatever the case is, and go get him. I mean, but so that's where I'm at currently. And I want the shiny things. Then Sammy Watkins says, no, don't do the shiny things. Yeah. And then the class is deep. But the importance, it's not just we want a receiver. We need a number one to succeed Stephon Diggs.
Scott, you're Brandon Beane. I mean, what's the perfect scenario? Because I don't know. DT's right. The wide receiver train is real, and I'm on it. I'm on it.
I always joke on the show. I just actually got off the phone with Brandon Beane, and we kind of discussed. Here's the thing. I would agree with you 100%, but I did not expect Beane to trade up last year to get a tight end and Dalton Kincaid.
Okay.
So is where my mind wants a wide receiver. If someone like a Brian Thomas falls there, or if a Dunze falls back there, of course, I want those guys on there. They got size. They can stretch the field. They can do the perimeter stuff like Diggs can, and they would be a number one for sure. They'd be someone that could take over for Diggs when he left. But then every time I think, okay, they might go this way, they bring someone in, obviously 30-plus-year-old, because I like to get in the old people for the 1 year. But it's like, where's the next step? And I feel that in order for this draft to be a success, first round has to be a starter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
This whole draft, develop and retain. We kind of, I think Osiris Torrance is the only guy that started from being drafted in the Beane era, other than, Josh Allen even have to wait. So I want them to be able to draft someone at 28 that's actually going to be an immediate starter.
Okay.
If someone like Verse from Florida State University is available at 24, 25, I wouldn't doubt if he traded up for an edge rusher again. I hate to say it. I think Bills fans are tired of seeing defensive linemen being taken, but that's a possibility. So you could throw everything in the air now because of what Beane did last year. Who thought they were going to get a tight end?
I think they were going to get tight end. And you're right about that, because I put that in my notes that, Beane, he gets antsy. He even said he was on Pat McAfee the other day. He's like, I get antsy, so sometimes he'll trade up. Now, I don't necessarily think that it was he did that for Kincaid to begin with. I think that the wide receiver run spooked him. So when the wide receiver run happens, he's like, these guys are running out. Well, what's my next best option is, this versatile guy from Utah that can catch everything and the 18 receptions against USC, that type of thing. So I think that his plans were probably altered because of the way that the draft goes. And we've seen runs on certain positions happen. And I'm worried about the fact that, not worried, but I think that there's a chance that he could trade up because of the fact that he'll get antsy. There'll be a position that he's looking at. Now I don't necessarily think you're just talking about, bringing in more of the 30-year-old somethings. They bring in another LaShawn Williams today, another defensive tackle that just signed Johnson the other day. So I understand that they've got some defensive line help now, and they've got some rotational guys, but like there's a chance that there could be a defensive tackle that he likes a lot. There could be a chance, you just spoke on it, like Jared Verse drops, I don't know if he's going to just sit there and just let somebody else grab him. He might want to grab him. I in a perfect world, for me, I definitely want somebody like an A.D. Mitchell. I want Adonai Mitchell, somebody that's big, that's fast, that's got that catch radius, all those different types of monikers that you talk about. But I feel like receiver is the best bang for your buck. And what I mean by that is those first round picks, Scott, DT, we get that 5th-year option. How important is that on a position like wide receiver when you see that these guys are getting the bag the way that they are now? Like they are getting paid to have that cost control for that 5th year. I think it's just such a big deal. And I don't know many other positions that I'm willing to do that for outside. Obviously, it's not quarterback. And then defensive end is all I can think of another position that's even worthy of that when it comes to it. Not a safety, not a defensive tackle to me. I want that 5th-year option for a guy just in case he blows up. It just gives me more time to work with him in his reps.
And now would be a time you do it with a now would be a time you did it with a receiver because the prices of number 1 wide receivers are going up, and it won't be long till wide receiver number 2 is making $20+ million a year.
Yep.
So if you were to get a 5-year deal on a rookie, I think Diggs is out at 27. So that would leave year 4 and then the 5th-year option to go after and keep your rookie that you signed this year. So that would be smart. That would be smart. And now you have Curtis Samuel in the ear of this rookie. We're always talking about these veterans that are in the ear and teaching these guys their trades.
Yeah.
They have 2 really good ones that they're in Buffalo that can teach this new guy for sure.
DT, is that perfect scenario?
I think the chances of wide receiver not working out has been diminishing over the years. Like these first round wide receivers are coming in and producing, last year that out of that whole run of receivers, Quentin Johnston was the only one that really didn't work out. Everybody else, Smith Najiba, Zay Flowers, all these dudes had Jordan Addison, even all these dudes had really good rookie years and came in and started and produced right away. And we're seeing that a lot more. I think with these receivers and coming out, back to the Jamar Chase and the Justin Jefferson, getting these guys, you can find value in later rounds. We got Khalil Shakir, and the list goes on and on, but the value you can find in later rounds. But in this first round talent pool over the past couple of years, it seems that you're not really taking a chance. You get one of these big name dudes, they're going to come in and produce.
Yeah, I mean the hit rate is definitely going up. You're seeing it in different rounds, all throughout the draft. I mean, Puka Nacua, how many teams passed on him? Now, obviously, he fell to a good system and it was perfect for him. But boy, I mean, I didn't even know who he was until he started catching all those touchdowns and those passes out there in LA. So it's definitely worth looking at for sure. Now, the free agency wrap up as we continue to transition. What's your favorite external signing, guys? I mean, is it Samuel? I mean, I kind of laughed when I did my notes because I don't really know if there's there's not many other options. Like I said, the Bills again today signed LaShawn Williams. They've got Austin Johnson, who is our friend Day Daquan Jones's friend from college and out there in Tennessee as well. They were teammates. Mac Hollins, I have to admit, didn't even know who he was until the Bills signed him. Had to look him up on Google and figure out his career. I mean, is it just Samuel, hands down? Is that kind of the external signing that we're most impressed with? Because it is for me, for sure. I think that he's versatile. I think he does a lot of different things outside, slot. He was a running back at Ohio State. So I think that he offers a lot of different flexibilities. Are you interested in that, Scott? Are you buying that? I mean, it seemed there's, we were up against the cap, so there's not much external signings going on, but I like Samuel.
I am all for Samuel. I think it's an automatic upgrade over Gabe Davis. I like Gabe Davis.
Oh, really?
Samuel has a lot more to offer, I think, as far as being able to be a running back and a sneaky little gadget guy. And he got him 3 years for $8 million a year, up to $10 million a year. That's a steal with a wide receiver number 2, as I just said. That price is going up. But my surprise and happy they got him guy is a guy by the name of Casey Toohill. And I'm going to tell you why. My best My best friend is a Redskin or a Commanders fan.
Okay.
So when the Bills game, I have 2 TVs. So if the Commanders game is on, I'll watch. When they got rid of Sweat and Young,
Yes.
he got opportunities. He was able to get the quarterback over 5 times on 40% of a snap.
Right.
He
Okay.
still did rotate.
Okay.
The guy has the 6'5", 260-pound. He's got the same exact body frame that McDermott loves at that defensive end here in Buffalo. And he's got a motor like you would not believe.
Yeah,
he
I heard
reminds
he
me
has
of
a
a more
motor.
hyped up Epinesa. So
Really?
that is a sneaky
Okay.
good pick. And he'll be someone that's fighting for reps definitely this year. And, we do bold predictions. I'm going 5+ sacks easy for him this year. And it's going to be it's going to be one of those not quite Floyd pickups, but a surprise pickup. I really like that one when I saw him come off the board.
Wow. I didn't DT. He's killing us with the 2 hill. I didn't even know who he was either. So look at that. I like that, Scott.
I agree. I had to look into it, but then those stats definitely did impress me with him. Obviously Samuel's great, but I'm going on that Austin Johnson train.
Yeah.
This guy comes in who, obviously my connection with Day and Jones when I used to go down to Nashville and be with them, and he was his roommate. He came in a year later, from Penn State, and it was a big deal because his boy from Penn State was coming in, and they roomed together, nice little penthouse downtown Nashville on Broadway, and we go in and we're having a good time, and kind of the murmurs of like it was an awkward situation because Day was the 3rd round pick, the starter in the defensive line, but Austin Johnson coming in and getting some reps of like he might be taking your job, Jones. So like this dude had some early flourishing, and then kind of bounced around similar to Daquan. Starts every game last year, for the Chargers in a team that was, in shambles, and starts every game and is kind of the one mainstay of that team, especially with Boza in and out of the lineup and everything between the leader of that defensive line coming in. Hopefully it's the same thing that Jones has coming into a new scenery with his guy. They can relate together and really plug that middle up. I mean, I think he's, improvement from Tim Settle, and Jordan Phillips was great for a lot of other reasons, but I think actually on-field play, I think he's an upgrade from Settle and Jordan Phillips. So I'm excited for him, excited for the reunion back with Jones. A cool little fact about this, they weren't married at the time, but now they are. And his wife used to play in the lingerie football league.
Oh, really?
She was. I mean, it's no joke. No joke. Yeah, like highlight tape, Ray Lewis type sticks. So, it ain't no soft family over there.
I like that. That's funny. That's good. Now, as we wrap up on free agency, we've seen that again. The Bills ripped the Band-Aid off. Brandon Beane does a couple weeks back. We go through it, and we say our goodbyes to a lot of guys. But one of the things that's very important is that it's not always the guys from outside. Free agency, everybody gets all hyped up and it's free agency and who's the new shiny toy. Sometimes you got to clean up stuff in your own house, a little bit of spring cleaning. And I like the fact that Daquan Jones comes back and AJ Epinesa comes back on a nice, really cost-friendly deal. David Edwards, I guess, is going to be, more important now bringing him back. Anybody that sticks out to you guys for what Brandon Beane did for re-signing his own? Because to me, it's hands down Daquan Jones. I think that he elevated the play of Ed Oliver last season, Scott. I think that he made life easier for Ed. And I love the fact that Brandon Beane was able to get him to come back.
I agree 100%. Bringing back those defensive linemen, Epinesa included, like you said. I'm not going to go too much into it because you hit the nail on the head. Daquan Jones was a big part. We didn't have a Tech 1 defensive tackle until they re-signed him. And that's a big part of our offense. That's a big part of our defense. That's a big part of Ed Oliver's success. Is when Latoulier was in, I said quite often, because I don't think Ed Oliver was quite there yet, the only reason Oliver was good is because Latoulier took up the double teams and all that stuff. I'm so glad Oliver's come into his own, and he's the player that we thought he could be. But Daquan, man, he makes it so much easier for him, and those two combined together, it's very dangerous. It sucks that he went out with that pectoral injury last year, but if he's healthy, and I read that 30-plus-year-olds for defensive tackles is not very old anymore in the league. So
they can play a little bit longer
because of the rotation and all that stuff. So that was an important signing, and it was a good signing.
I liked it a lot. What you got, DT?
Taylor Rapp, man. I think that's big for us. I mean, he came in and played good when he needed to. Now without Poyer, probably not Hyde. This dude's got to be the guy back there. I know we the name just blanking from the Chiefs.
Mike Edwards.
Mike
The other
Edwards,
starts.
yeah.
Mike Edwards, yes. Mike Edwards
Mhm.
going to come in, obviously start, but Rapp's going to come in and he's going to have to be, take that next step to be that guy. Showed some flourishing, and I was happy we got him back and somebody we could rely on back there. So I'm looking for him to play big and fill those shoes of Poyer and Hyde and be the younger version. And he learned from the best last year. He saw them both. He saw them operate, come in and hit it hard running. And when back to the DaQuan Jones thing, I mean, back, when he was in Tennessee, I felt like the kind of the murmurs of like retiring and like just getting as much money as possible, like doing that what you should do, right? In the NFL, like
Right.
secure yourself, secure your family. And then it's the vibes kind of changed since he's come to
Okay.
Buffalo. It's like, yo, let's
Rejuvenated.
get a ring. Let's get a ring. Like, I'm here to play. Like, and so like that makes me excited too about, somebody who's talking about retiring 5-6 years ago now is chomping at the bit to come back and play at 32 years old, so that's kind of shows the culture of this team and everything's changing. But the rejuvenation of it's not just the money anymore. They're here to win. They're here to win rings. So
it's funny that you said that, because that circles back to the our first topic of conversation was what do you need, and that culture is a part of that equation for sure, Scott. And it was funny because Mike Edwards, when he signed, he's one of the first things he said was like, they just have a winning culture. I like the way that they operate. He talked about the coaching staff and just said that they sold him on the fact of the vision and different things like that for the team. And like that's something to be said, because we all went through the drought where we're all parched and we've got nothing to drink and we're out there in the desert and nobody wants to come to Buffalo. Nobody even wants to sniff it. And T.O. is a big deal just because of the fact that he's coming to Buffalo and he chose us, and Mario Williams, and we all remember the day Mario signed. Those days are over. We're now a destination. We're now a place that people want to go to, like DT said, to try to get that ring. So I think that is important for sure, because it seems like whatever Brandon Beane is doing down there, and I've got my problems with Sean McDermott, and the crew knows that, Scott, and we won't have to get into it tonight, but one thing you cannot take away from him is that the players do respect him. They do like playing for him, and that kind of showed up even after that piece by Ty Dunn. It was just the players rallied around him. Mm-hmm. They use it as a rallying cry, and you can't take it from them. They like McDermott and they like Beane. You could tell.
Yeah, you guys. I know you mentioned rings just now, and that's the goal. And I just wanted to throw this out there for the fans that are upset that Poyer and Hyde are gone. You want to know the difference between Poyer, Hyde, and Rapp and Mike Edwards?
7 years of consistency, a couple all pros. What do you got?
Mike Edwards and Taylor Rapp both have Super Bowl rings starting on Super Bowl defenses.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, Mike Edwards has been on the last two Super Bowl champions. Yeah, he played for Tampa and then he went to KC last year. So that is a good point. Now
they'll be just fine.
Oh, okay. All right. Listen, it's funny that you say that, and it'll be interesting. But the culture point, like I said, I think it does matter, and they definitely have a team that people want to play for. So I'll tip the cap to them for that. Now, before we begin to wrap up, I've got a little trivia for you, Scott, since you came on, and we appreciate you coming on the show. Now, you're the co-host of the K-Gun Report, correct?
Correct.
A little trivia for you. Who is the K-Gun named after?
Keith McKellar.
Number
84.
He hit it on the head. Look at that, DT. I didn't even have to break out the jersey as a hint. That's many people will think that it was for Jim Kelly, but it is not. It's for Keith McKellar. Yes, the versatile tight end who could run and block and catch and do all that type of stuff. So there you go. I like that a lot. He was right on it, DT.
That's exactly why. Pete Metzelaars was their tight end, their big blocking tight end that could do it all. And the Buffalo Bills brought in McKellar, and Butch Roll actually came in too. Touchdown Butch Roll. But McKellar, because he was ahead of his time. He's one of these guys that we could use now, like a Kincaid. He was big, could block, and he could catch the ball. And the K-Gun came because of him.
I like that. He knew that, DT. I always feel like I'm on Twitter and I'm always educating the younger fans because they get on my nerves sometimes in the younger mafia, and I'm always going back and forth with those guys because they don't know what it was like. But Scott, he knows his shit. So I like that a lot. Now, as we begin to transition and wrap up, new rules. The leagues just had their league meetings and all that other type of stuff going on down there in Orlando. And it was funny because a couple major changes happened and come out of it. And I wanted to get your guys' takes on it. DT, the kickoff is going to be radical. It's going to be different. They've stolen it from the XFL model. And again, it's for reducing collisions. It's for making sure that these guys are not running down the field 15 miles an hour, 17 miles an hour and banging into each other like a car crash. I'm all for that. I'm all for making sure that the kickoff stayed in the game. Listen, kickoffs are going to be eliminated if they didn't come up with something. So I am happy that they're keeping it in the game because I do think it's electrifying. You think about Nyheim Hines, that wonderful 2 kickoff returns and what that meant for us. And you're coming off of Damar Hamlin. You think about a guy like Devin Hester, who has just been elected to the Hall of Fame. So go ahead and get Steve Tasker in there now. It would be a great time. Oh, yeah. I mean, what do you think, DT? The kickoff's going to look crazy week 1, but I am happy that they kept it in the game. I am.
Yeah. Well, shout out UFL kicking off this weekend. St. Louis
Yes,
Battlehawks.
Yes, they are.
That's
smelling what the Rock's cooking.
To fix that itch a little bit. Tune into the UFL, but it's tough because, like you said, the kickoff, the returns will be gone. If nothing changed on this, right? And this is something that it turned into basically there wasn't returns anyway. It was very, very rare. Just kicking in the
Super Bowl
end zone,
had 0.
fair catch, call it. Yeah, exactly. Call it a day, get out of there. So they were basically gone anyway. This is new. You don't want to take away from the crest and the beauty of the game, but you have to be progressive. And and the reality of it is, kids aren't playing football like they used to, right? So probably 20, 30, 40 years from now, you're going to see a huge decline just in football in general. So we got to start taking steps to make it safer to get interest back in it and everything like that for the longevity of the game itself. So I do support it. Just a little gimmicky looking, it's just these guys down the field. It is going to result in more returns because I think if it kick it in the end zone, it goes to the 30, correct?
Correct. Yeah, they're penalizing now.
So
yep. Mm-hmm.
If it rolls into the end zone, it's a regular 20, or you can return it, out. What makes me a little nervous, but like hopefully create some hype is with these lines straight up. I mean, granted, teams are going to learn how to defend it, but it's just so close. If you break through that line, it's a lot of open grass out there. So I'm sure teams will be working on ways to defend it and whatnot, but it just seems a lot easier to house call one than it used to be.
What do you think, Scott? We're going to see more returns. I'm pretty much almost positive we're going to see some more. But it was a shock to the system when I saw the XFL and they do it. So what do you think about? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's going to be a lot more film study, like you said, dump truck. You're going to find out the 2 or 3 guys that are getting blocked every time that are creating the holes, and they're going to say find number 76, 78, and 79 and run towards them when you get the ball. Mm-hmm. But it is decreasing the collision. And when we thought the NFL was trying to get away from kickoffs and the injuries, it looks like the NFL is trying to make it so there's more returns again with the rules that you explained just a second ago.
Right.
But I'm kind of excited because we have a young special teams coach in Smiley. He's a young guy. He's not set in his ways, so I think he can adjust accordingly. It's these older guys that we're going to find out that are having problems with adjusting and calling these kickoff returns. The only thing I don't like about it, I'm excited to see it. I want to see how it plays out. The only thing I don't like about it now is now that you have to tell the refs when you're doing an onside kick.
Yeah, no.
So there's no surprise onside
element of
anymore.
Surprise is gone. Yeah, you think about that Super Bowl with the Colts, and then they come out at halftime. Yeah. I think was it the Colts that did it, or was it the Saints? Saints did it. Okay, yeah, Sean Payton, and so that's the element of surprise is gone. Now I think that they said that there was like 2% or 3% of the onsides last year were actually recovered. So something really low. So. But yes, I do appreciate what you talked about. There's no way to trick anybody anymore. You got to report, just like reporting eligible. Detroit found out how shitty that can be if you get that wrong. So now the hip drop tackle, Scott, you know a little bit more about this than we do in respect to the fact that you had a chance last week. You had on a former Bills wide receiver on the K-Gun Report who had a chance to kind of give his thoughts on it. And it was interesting because I listened to it and I didn't think about it the way that he explained it because I've never played professional football. So he had kind of spoke on it being almost kind of a dirty play. And he was happy for it. Speak about the guest that you had on last week on your show, because I liked his perspective. I hadn't thought about it that way.
Yeah, we had on the K-Gun Report last week, Brad Lamb, former Buffalo Bills wide receiver. He played there for 3 years. He was actually drafted the same year Mark Maddox, who's another guy that's on our show. Yeah. But his perspective of it was as a wide receiver. And he did allude that as more of a dirty play, grabbing someone by the hips and then swinging and dropping on their legs and taking them down that way. It's tough to call that, guys, because if you ask 99% of the offensive players out there, they like the rule. You ask 99% of the defensive players out there, they hate the rule.
Yeah.
I'm leaning towards hating the rule because as a defender, you're trying to make a tackle and trying for the guy not to go forward after you tackle him.
Correct.
You grab a guy by the hips like you're supposed to from the side.
Right.
And he's trying to go forward. What other option do you have than to slide down to his legs, onto his legs? It's tough to call. But if it's a change that they're going to make in the NFL, the only thing that I hope is that it is called fairly.
Okay.
and they're pretty consistent with it. It's just another rule now that these NFL refs have to try to figure out.
Yeah, something more on their plate.
Is it going to be reviewable? I know a lot of penalties aren't reviewable, but this
Right.
one is the big one. It's going to be an automatic 15-yard penalty. I mean,
I would like DT. I would like them to just fine these guys for it and then send a check, send a fine in the mail next week and keep the game moving, because I'm worried, like Scott's worried, that it's going to fuck up a game. Like, and I don't want that. I don't want a situation where I'm giving out a free 15 for something that's interpreted the wrong way, like Scott said, or it looked like it was, but it really wasn't. It's just another subjective call like PI or
you can't go high, you can't go low. Where are you going to go?
Yeah.
Where are you going?
I'm worried about that, DT. I'm hoping that it will be more of a fine system where you'll hear about it on your feed, coming up that next Tuesday, that they handed out a fine to a guy, as opposed to giving 15 yards on Sunday. I don't want it to muck up the game. And that's that thing that I'm worried about.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing. I mean, make the game safer, yes. Change a game, no. Like change an outcome of a game, no,
right.
On that, right? And I think offense, defense, everyone's on board with that. But the NFL, it's almost laughable at this point, right? Safety is our number one issue. All right, let's add another week to the season. Safety is our number one issue. All right, let's make these dudes.
Let's have Wednesday games for Christmas.
Yeah, let's play every day of the week. Safety's an issue. Let's do this. So yes, safety's an issue on paper to them, but on the field, I don't think they're going to let it affect the game. I think it'll be similar to like what we see in these roughing the passer type calls, right? We've seen an increase in with what you can do, what you can't do with these dudes over the past couple of years, but then when the game's on the line and it's going down the wire, you're not seeing that as much. I think that's going to be exactly the same as in this situation. You're going to see it to set a point in situations where it's not going to create a different outcome of the game. You're going to see it, and then other than that, it's going to be the fine on the chair. It's going to be the perfect example of Daquan Jones last year, his sack against Tua in Buffalo in the fourth quarter. There, just broke through the line, beautiful sack, and I guess landed on him or whatever, and no flag, nothing. And then 3 days later, $30,000, So that's fine. Find these dudes, whatever you got to do. But the NFL isn't gonna start ruining games because of this, because they know what type of reaction it's gonna get. So I'm not too, I get the instant reaction of what the hell, but now I don't think you're gonna see it, but it's not gonna create different outcomes.
Until it's a playoff game and Mahomes gets the call after it was 4th and 25, automatic 15 game-winning touchdown.
I know, it's crazy. I mean, that's what I'm worried about, is that I don't want it to actually affect the outcome of a game or anything like that. I saw on Twitter, even like Cornelius the Biscuit Bennett, he was like, I was taught to bring down the ball carrier by any means necessary other than grabbing his face mask. And then Richard Sherman was on there concurring with him. And then some offensive guys were mad, and they were kind of going back and forth. It was funny, just like you talked about, Scott. The offense, they more protection for them, so they're happy, and then the defense is definitely like, what the hell's going on? What do we have to do? And it's funny because it's always been that back and forth. And then somebody had showed me like a little highlight film of Ray Lewis. He was doing those gator rolls. So you might have to just bring back the gator roll and a little bit more technique on that, because he brought dudes down with that tackle for sure. He's wrapping them up, and then
bunch of times
he's just twisting, and you're not going anywhere but down to the ground. So we'll see how the players adjust. The defense, I'm sure, will find a way to do so. Now, another couple of rules. They just some mundane stuff. They changed the trade deadline to the after week 9, which is right around exactly smack dab in the middle of the season. And then if you get a challenge correct, you'll get a third one, which was good, because before it was you had to get 2 right. I don't like that anyway, and I see you, Scott, with your reaction. Why can't it just be like college football and they just review the egregious shit and we move on with our lives? Yeah. Like, I don't understand why we have to even throw challenges out. Like, if you want to say that you're doing it to get the calls right, then just get them all right, or what I mean, or throw it all out, all together. Why is this whole challenge system? It's annoying, because what you're actually doing is slowing down the game, and then I've got to correct what the officials already messed up on. They're doing it now in the NBA, and I can't stand it. Either get it all right, or just let somebody just officiate the entire thing, a sky judge.
You got someone in the booth, and you got someone in New York. Okay, the last thing I want is my head coach as a defensive coordinator having to listen while he's trying to call defense to say, should I throw this flag or not? I think this rule, this whole flag thing is ridiculous. You got all these refs on the field. You got someone in the booth and in the sky.
Cameras.
Yes, if these guys get paid enough money to review it right away and say, okay, official timeout, call it. timeout. Let's review this play.
That was not intentional grounding. Yep, or something like that.
The coaches shouldn't have to find someone else's mistake. The refs are paid this much money to do a certain job. They have enough eyes on it. They should be able to figure it out without anybody having to throw out a red flag.
Ooh, here to that. I like that.
It angers me because the coaches that don't have offensive or defensive responsibilities, they can do that.
Right.
McDermott's got to call defense.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. You see Dan Campbell, he throwing that challenge flag every game.
Yes, they're the ones that brought up the rule.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So, I agree. I mean, as much money as this league generates, like, get the sky judge, just make it happen instantaneously. And like, great point about the
college game just flows so easily, DT. I mean, they send it down, they stop the game real quick, and then they let them know what's going on, and then all of a sudden we're back to football. And I just think that's better because and they do it in basketball, and I love basketball, and it's just, I'm like, man, why do we have to? And we're reviewing all the time. We got to make up for the ref's mistake. Like, that doesn't make any sense, and it just slows everything down. So
all this money, you might as well get it right. And I tell you what, more commercial time is more money for the NFL, which makes our cap go up, which makes we.
Yeah. And how many times during these reviews they show the replay on TV, and you know the answer after the first take of the replay.
Yep.
It's like, okay, he dropped it. Oh, okay, he caught it, and then it's another 5
minutes.
10 minutes. And it just, it just seems definitely almost ancient time that you're having to do stuff like this. I guess it creates a competitive nature to it. Like, you have to be prepared as a coach and know when to throw it, know when.
Why am I making up for the rest though?
But it's like, that's why they're there, and that's why the guy in New York and the guy in the booster, like, that's why they're
Gene
there.
Steratore coming on and telling you everything. I'm so sick of his voice.
And then they wait till the call's made, and then they justify it was made that way. Is that a fumble? I don't know. Fumble on the play. Yes, it was a fumble.
That is
so
how
funny. I know? The ref on the field said it was.
That's so true. Yes,
or they say it, and it doesn't matter what they say, because whatever is the call on the field,
that's
the call on the field.
Oh, that's funny. As we wrap up tonight, again, we appreciate Scott Reed again from the K-Gun Report over at Buff Fandemonium joining us tonight. Tell everybody where they could find you when you guys are doing your shows, different things like that, because we really appreciate you you taking time out of your night tonight.
And trust me, we appreciate being on the show, Rob. Thank you. It was a lot of fun. You could find me at Scott247BF on Twitter. You could find my page 24/7 Buff Fandemonium on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and we actually got a TikTok. So hit us up there. I'm a co-host of the K-Gun Report. We go live every Tuesday, 8 o'clock, and Sunday Sessions, which is Buff Fan Base's pregame show. We go on an hour and a half before every game come season start. It's a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of you guys on our shows and talk Buffalo Bills football. Like everyone else in the Buff fan base, it's a fan first perspective kind of a group. And that's why we love it so much. And we want to hear your all voices. That's why we see the comments coming in, and your questions are important because we love to answer them. It keeps the show going, and we do this because of you.
Absolutely.
Sure. Thanks for having me again, Rob.
Absolutely, man. We appreciate it. We're definitely going to have you back on. Shout out to Trey White. You see him right behind me. Just a class act. He was hands down my favorite Buffalo Bill for many, many years. He exemplified everything that you're supposed to like. My favorite thing about him, DT, and you would know this because you're at the games too. My favorite thing about Trey White was his energy during the timeouts. He would dance, and that shit was the funniest. I mean, it never got old. It was never something that I thought that he was doing it to show up boat or show up anybody. It was just Trey being Trey, and an all pro. Really, really excited for him to get a chance to continue his career. Again, these injuries, again, that luck thing, it brings it full circle. I mean, you need talent, you need a little bit of culture, and then you need some luck. I mean, last year we were just snake bitten with injuries, and none like Trey White. Just to see him go down again with that injury was really, really hard. He was just getting back to rounding into form from that Thanksgiving Day injury a couple years ago in Motown. And, just from the Nickel City crew to Trey White, man, the best of wishes, and hope he stays healthy out there in LA with the Rams. DT, I know you like Trey White too, but, man, I would just love seeing him dance on the sideline. That shit would always get a smile on my face, man.
Great energy. 271, I remember, was when I forget who even they were playing, but a coach's play sheet flew the wind from the other team, and he ran over and picked it up real quick and pretended he was.
Yes, I saw that.
For the other team.
I saw that.
Just a great guy in the community, a family man, fit into the Buffalo mold great.
Goalie Academy.
Go, but don't know what the future holds for him, and good for him. Got a nice little bag. $8 million,
Yeah.
could have 10 going into next year, and it's just a 1 year
Yeah.
deal too. So he goes in
Yeah.
and comes back and becomes something again. Who says we can't get him back next year?
Brandon Beane wouldn't close the door, Scott. He said maybe we could get him back, that different things like that. Now he was talking about this offseason, but I mean, Trey White, what did he mean to the K-Gun Report? Because he's one of the most enjoyable Buffalo Bills I've seen in recent years for sure. He was my favorite Buffalo Bill for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, 100% support because of the exact reasons that Dump Truck just said. He was a family guy. He belonged to the culture. He was in the community.
Yeah.
Of course, with injury, you always root for the next guy. You always root for the guy coming back and having success. And we were just almost there when that Achilles went.
Yeah.
But best of luck, 10 mil potentially. Yes, that's awesome for him. One year. I'm just glad he's he's in the NFC and not in the AFC.
Yeah.
So if we can watch him and root for him and see him become Trey White like we know, that's going to be better for us because we know we don't have to play him.
Yeah, absolutely. I shout out to Trey White. We definitely loved him here on the crew, and definitely wish him the best of success. Well, Listen, everybody, the Sweet 16 is getting ready to get started. We appreciate everybody that joined in tonight, and had a chance to join us on all the different platforms. Again, Scott Reed from the K-Gun Report. We appreciate you joining us tonight, man. Salute. We appreciate you. We're going to continue to build the base. You guys stole my hashtag. I love it. Continue to spread it around, man. I love that. We're going to continue to build the base. I think that it's awesome because we've got a bunch of great content creators out there, and we just want to continue to just cross-pollinate and just support each other, be on different shows, and show each other the love, man, because it's all for the Bills Mafia, man. It's all for the Bills, man. We love the Bills, so it's all good, man. I appreciate it, man.
Oh yeah, thanks again, guys, for having me on the show. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Out there, enjoy the Sweet 16. Get your bets in if that's what you do, if that's your fancy, and enjoy some great basketball tonight and tomorrow. Again, please spread love, not hate. These were my Bills thoughts said out loud. Hit them with a go Bills, Scott. That's what we do at the end. Hit them with a go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills. Go Bills.